So thank you so much for talking to us. I just want to start by congratulating you on the success of Servant. It's got such a great reaction online.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm so happy. We knew we had something like really special, and we could not wait for everybody to see it. So we were so excited because we'd shown it to some people, and the reactions were so wonderful.
Oh, great. How has it been for you working on this show compared to the films you worked on in the last few years?
Very similar. I was trying to bring the aesthetics and the process from the last films that I made, the last 3 movies, to this show. So the contained quality, I own it. We do heavy rehearsals. We're minimalist in the way we approach everything. We're not excess. You don't solve it with CGI. None of that stuff, right? So really just about performances and camera. And the best part of it, I think the differences are I get to work with so many different artists. So I got to work with these other directors and the writer and all new people. And I could try different things. And I guess that freedom was exciting.
That's great. Speaking of the writing in particular, how much input did you have with the story and the overall narrative direction?
You know, Tony's an amazing writer, and I think what I'm interested in is more architectural stuff, saying, hey, can the characters go here? How about at the end of this area of the story, maybe in episode 4, this can happen? And so I think we're very complementary in that respect. That the architectural thinking, hey. So I'm often saying, hey, let's pretend it's 60 episode show. This is where we want to get to, which I do have that conversation. This is the end. This is episode 60. So, and then you go in each season, what do we want to accomplish as we get to that last moment there? And then in this episode, how can that help that season?
How much have you mapped out? Obviously, you have that endpoint.
Yeah.
How much have you mapped out beyond season 1?
I have in my head. We have these nice movements. I can see. Two strong movements of where it's going to go to get us to that last point. And now I'm kind of, my mind, I'm trying to fight the instinct to make it a movie.
Okay.
So, like, for example, my mind goes to, okay, if it's 6 seasons, that means every 2 seasons is the end of an act, essentially. So at the end of season 2, I want to get you to this point. And then the end of season 4, get you to this point. I don't know if that's the correct way to think about it, but my mind kind of is wired that way. So if it's a long-form movie, at the end of this all, if you went back and watched it, you could feel that kind of architecture.
Oh, that's interesting. So in terms of, you said there's 2 particular directions. Is that to do with the central mystery and the involvement of maybe supernatural or not? Is it linked with that?
Yeah. Well, to answer that, tonally, we want it to always be right on the edge of you can interpret it supernatural or there's a way to explain it another way. And hopefully we can ride that line all the way. But there's a big mystery in terms of who she is and the title character and where that's going.
Do you have a favorite moment in particular? Maybe perhaps from I was particularly impressed by episode 9. I thought it was stunning.
Thank you.
You directed yourself.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I loved directing episode 9. There was something. I drew every shot. I draw everything that I do, but on that particular episode, I did it all myself. Essentially, I kind of drew it in this notebook, every single shot and the movement of it, and it was. I knew I wanted to direct that particular episode because it was the backstory of what happened. And I knew it was going to be extremely difficult for Lauren to perform that, and so I wanted to be there for that. But it did feel special when I was directing that episode. There was something about it, and when we put it together for the first time, the composer didn't want to put any music in it because he's like, I don't want to touch this. I'm not touching this. And it took us a while to even figure out how to incorporate any music. And if you watch it, the first 14 minutes have no music. So when you're watching it until you come back into the present, essentially, there's nothing.
I just have one more question.
Yeah.
So obviously you're working on TV right now.
Yeah.
I read before that you wouldn't want to do any more sequels to Unbreakable and Glass.
Yeah.
But would you ever consider exploring one of your films on a TV format, a previous film, perhaps maybe like a prequel to The Village? I think would be really interesting.
Yeah, I've had lots of opportunities to consider that. Take one of my movies and do it as a TV show. I'm just not sure why I would do it for me, because to some extent, when I'm writing and directing these movies, they really represent the ones that were my original ideas they really represent where I was at that time.
Yeah.
And even Unbreakable, it was hard to go back to it. So when I did Split, it had to represent where I was at that time. So for example, like Split, I was making small contained movies, and my daughters are 18, 19, 20. They're in that world. So the girls in the movie, the main character is 19 years old. So it waited so long it became relevant again, like a piece of clothing that goes out of fashion, it came back again. And so it has to really be organic. I can't go, hey, let me pretend I'm 35 or I'm 27 again and let me tell that story. It just feels weird.